Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you today. We are doing this interview today for Chalice and the Well Summit, filling your sacred chalice from the eternal well within. In this interview series, we aim to help you find pathways towards embracing the inner light, your soul, your connection with the eternal energy sources, empowering all of creation to exist. I'm Brianna Wunderlin, and I'm here with David Manning. He is a transmitter and a receiver of energy and information. He interprets patterns in fields of multidimensional energies and gives voice to them in a way that makes them accessible for others. He does this in writing, in individual sessions, and larger group work. This takes on the form of online teleconferences, workshops, and courses, and when possible, in-person workshops offered in the UK. He has gone through deep personal work to empty out his personal energy field and identify with his connectedness instead of wounding. Through that, he realized that the themes and patterns he was seeing made sense when applied to the healing journeys of individuals and groups. He often receives prompting from other dimensions when they want something communicated. His work has been about large-scale dismantling of collective and individual energy fields, and now seems to be shifting into a very creative phase, introducing higher dimensions and frequencies as we begin to co-create a new world. Hopefully this interview will also be about co-creating a new world through a guided practice, and also talking with David about his work in multidimensional energy fields. Thank you, David. It's really lovely to be here with you today.
Hey, thank you for. I didn't recognize that introduction in a sense, and I know that it's something that I wrote myself, but it's like, oh, so thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
You're so welcome. I know we said a little bit before this we started recording, but um, how did this energy work start for you? How did you start to kind of connect in this deeper way?
As a child, I was, very multidimensional. I saw other realms, other realities, and I knew stuff, and I just assumed that everybody else did too. And then realized, oh, no, that's not how it is. And there was always a voice inside the center of my head that chatted away to me. And again, it was one of those things that I thought was normal. And then the voice told me it was leaving, it was going away. And I felt totally bereft by that. I think I was about 7 years old. And it explained that I needed to be focused in this world rather than in the other world. And I was never very good at being present in this world. It took me a long time to get to grips with that. But and then I had I can't say it was a regular life. It was a very I was in a very dysfunctional family, so it was chaotic and crazy in the extreme. Um, and then in my 20s, the voice started coming back, and I was living very chaotically and crazily, and it got worse and worse. But that voice was very present, and I knew that voice and what it was showing me, what it was guiding me towards, wanted all of me.
Hmm.
And I knew that I wasn't in any way prepared to give all of me, but not at that stage. And that's been a step by step process, a bit more, a bit more, a bit more. Um, but at that stage, I was addicted. I was living the life of an addict, and that tore me in two, in a sense, because I had one very active spiritual life and one very crazy, addicted life. And I thought I could have it all, and of course, you can't really. You have to make choices, and I almost. I almost didn't make it. Then I almost died in that process, but made choices that brought me here instead. And all the time, I was very aware that if I had been left to my own devices, my own self-destruction would have taken over. I would have killed myself. I would never have actually committed suicide, but the way I was living was suicidal. It would have got me there. But that my spirit was much stronger than my personality, and it stepped in time and time again to stop me, teetering over the edge of the cliff, as it were. So, and now that I don't walk quite so close to the edge as often, I'm very grateful for that. So yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm really interested in, I'll say this is a personal thing for me, but maybe viewer, I hope people viewing will find this also interesting, is I find the fact that addiction is an altered state and spiritual experiences are often altered states in a sense, that they're closely linked somehow, that, that we as humans have a need for them.
Yeah.
And if we can't find them spiritually, which is not as widely practiced in our culture, we will search them out in a different way. I'm wondering if that was your experience or that
Yeah,
resonates.
it was very much. And, my addiction started very young. I was sniffing petrol gasoline at a very early age. It was a very rough high.
Yeah.
But I was in a lot of pain, that there had been sexual abuse, and I was already traumatized out of my body by that experience. And I realize now, looking back, hindsight is an amazing thing, but it was important for the work I do now, and there was a commitment to do this work in this lifetime. And, it was sort of important to keep those doorways open somehow, because a lot of information and energy came through. And often we don't. Often those doorways close down and we get really involved in an education system that locks us in, and, a life that locks us in. And that didn't happen for me because I lived a crazy, non-ordinary life, for a long time. And even whilst I was running my big patterns of addiction, I always had this other multidimensional stuff going on. So, getting stoned, taking acid and ecstasy, and drinking large amounts and having huge amounts of sex with lots and lots of people, dancing in clubs and stuff. All of that there was a strong shamanic element to a lot of that. And I had a group of friends where we were all interested in energy and psychic perceptions and stuff. And again, I spent a lot of time taking magic mushrooms. And those really, really helped in terms of opening psychic perceptions. And I don't recommend, it's not a path I'm recommending to people. I think if you're going to do psychedelics, and you do it very carefully and stuff, and I wasn't doing it very carefully at all. It was just really crazy. But as I say, my spirit kept me out of the trouble I was sort of determined to get myself into, in a sense. So there were very strong protective elements in, and I always knew, even when I was in the darkest, sleaziest clubs, that there was sort of this level of innocence here that was untouched by all that I was doing. And it was the weirdest sense, and I think that's true. I think actually what I'm experiencing right now, and this brings it sort of full circle, because right now there is this return of innocence for humanity. I think we are shedding some of the vast layers and eons of conditioning that has locked into place in the collective fields, and therefore we experience it individually too. And we are remembering our eternal innocence. This is coming back into view, into our tangible felt experience of ourselves and of life. And of course, it's crazy because the whole world is in this weird space at the moment. And I look around, and for many people, this is a really, really difficult time. But for many others, it's actually a really, really beautiful time. And there is a terrific splitting of dimensions happening now, and this has been promised and foretold, and it was shown to me a couple of years ago. And it's like, okay, you've got to let go of people in those dimensions. You can't reach across and try and help anymore because it's a waste of energy. Choices have been made. You're here to focus on the birth of a new world, not to rescue or help and support the old world. So just let it be. And so, yeah, it looks really stark, but it's really important for those of us that are experiencing beauty and joy to hold those resonances, because the world really needs those frequencies at the moment, you know? So, yeah, it's interesting. That was a long roundabout answer to a to a simple question, I think.
No, it's beautiful.
Sorry.
No, it's perfect. I love where you ended up, and it felt like, we are portals in a sense, like when we
Totally.
hold those vibrations for others to access that dimension of innocence or joy or peace or whatever our kind of soul gifts might be to offer.
Yeah, yeah, we really are portals, I think. And often we're muddy portals, you know, we've got our personalities up front and we've got our wounding and our conditioning. And that's always been the spiritual journey, has been to polish the lens, as it were, deal with the conditioning, deal with the wounding, so that what wants to shine through our very individual portal does so as unobstructedly as possible. And you know, the light coming onto the planet, the light emerging from the core of the earth, is seeking human bodies to ground it, to make it available, because we are co-creating a new world. We are co-creating networks of light on the surface of this planet and helping to construct new grid lines, because a lot of the old grid lines have been really compromised by, you know, the controlling forces, in a sense. And those are, I think, starting to let go now. And I think, you know, we're heading into, well, we're in times of chaos, and that's not going to give up anytime soon. But it is important for us to focus on the growing beauty and the emerging joyfulness that is tangible too. Yeah, I mean, are you experiencing that? More joy, more love, more beauty?
Mm. I've felt really connected to that since I was very young. So, um, but I have been focusing on the innocence piece that you're talking about actually recently, and having realizations about innocence, like you're saying. And so that really sparked. I was like, oh yes, that's what's coming up for me a lot too. This piece about innocence and
I do think it's very, very present, and it's the recognition that we chose to immerse ourselves in this murky, murky field of very human experience and get lost in those fields. And that was beautiful and courageous and enjoyable and weird and crazy and frightening and all the rest of it. And now we're waking up from that dream and dusting ourselves down and thinking, what the fuck was that all about? You know, and what are we going to do now? You know, what are we going to create now? Because we're starting to recognize we're in these places where we have the capacity to create, and create very quickly. Things can manifest very, very quickly now, particularly if a group of people gets together and joins their, or unites their hearts and their minds, in one focus. And again, I think, you know, that's always been known and often been utilized and used for less than holy purposes, shall we say. Now we get to play with that and experiment with that, to build this new world. And I get to see this. I work with large groups of people. Every Sunday I run a teleconference, and often there are sort of 200 plus people that sign up for these all over the world. And we create a field of energy that is planetary, and lovely things happen. It's not my field, it's our field. And lovely things happen in that field. And I'm just becoming aware that, oh, we're going to start using that field now. We're going to be starting to direct that field towards specific things. I don't know what that is yet. I haven't been given that, but I can feel that coming now. And it's like, oh, we are moving into this creative phase of what do we build with this? How do we co-create with our spiritual selves, our spiritual source, the lives, the world we have longed to live, you know?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, as you're saying, I'm just thinking, oh yeah, I'm noticing that another spiritual community I've been a part of that has been kind of fortifying and starting to take on a structure in a sense,
Mm,
you know, that wasn't there before
yeah.
solidly. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Do you have any tips for individuals listening about how they might fortify their individual field in a sense to be receivers and
Give up the idea of protection. Because whenever we believe we need protection, we're coming from a place of fear, and we build a defensive structure, and defensive structures always attract attack.
mm,
So recognize that literally your greatest defense is your open heart. Um, and your greatest defense is not to exist, not to hang out in dimensions that are savage and cruel. Um, So do the work you need to do to dismantle the parts of you that are stuck in those dimensions, or that are vibrating at those levels. And that can happen very, very quickly now. Often it's with a decision, with a clear decision of I'm not holding on to that anymore, or I'm done with that bit of wounding. And allow yourself to exist in these higher dimensions. And it's interesting that the free gift I've offered through this is a 4-hour piece of energy work, in a sense. Last year, I was directed to start to introduce the community, the group that I work with and that works with me, to introduce them to these higher dimensions, because the higher frequencies were literally wanting to pour in. So we don't have to go anywhere. We can sit and invite these higher dimensional frequencies to flow through us, to ground in us. And that takes a bit of practice if you're not used to it, to hold those fields. But if you do practice with it a bit, as you introduce a higher frequency of energy into your field, it literally starts to vibrate the lower frequency energies out. They can't stay in the same place, you know. And we started, you know, fourth, fifth. I mean, don't hang around in the fourth dimension. That's crazy. It's a complete mess. So fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth, I think those were the dimensions, maybe 10th, I can't remember. But each is like a layer of experience, a set of frequencies, and we would bring each one of them in, and they expand the field. They create a major difference, and it takes, as I say, a bit of practice to hold those frequencies. But try that out on the free gift that is a part of my offering, because it's really important now that we disentangle ourselves. The frequency of fear is a killer. It's being used to kill people, to weaken their immune system and make them very vulnerable. And you don't have to exist within that frequency. Don't spend too much time watching the news, reading, you know, don't hang out watching conspiracy theory stuff either, because that too loops you into big patterns of fear. Look for the light, look for the joy, cultivate that in yourself. And I'm not talking about denying your wounding, your shadow. That's stuff that has to be dealt with. But deal with it quickly and cleanly and smoothly. There are many, many experienced people all over the world offering services to help with that. And then access the higher dimensional stuff, because you can change your world so very quickly. And when I was starting to do this, which is over 30 years ago now, it took me a long time. Now it doesn't, you know, things are moving so much more quickly. So it doesn't need to take years and years. This can shift very quickly if you're feeling in a dark space, and we all do from time to time, you know. And I used to live in those dark spaces. That was my life. We can all transform from those places if we want and if we choose, but we have to make dedicated decisions and really apply ourselves to that focus of, okay, that's where I want to get. It's not where I'm feeling I am at the moment, but that's where I'm gonna get. Nature too is the best healer. So find beautiful trees to lean against and lovely rocks to lie on, and just a bit of grass where you can stretch out on the earth and dump your energy, drop your energy into the earth and say, please help me with this, you know, take this. Ask the nature spirits to help, and drink in sunlight, and, you know, the usual stuff that everybody recommends, but really it's, and sunlight in particular now is so extraordinary in terms of the frequencies it's holding. So all of these very, very simple free things are totally transformational if we allow them to be, you know.
Yeah. I'm just drinking that in as well. Very lovely.
And what's happening now since the solstice, and the solstice was a huge shift, the solstice at the end of on the 21st of December last year, it really was a separating out, a moving into a new age, as it were. And this year is really a a crossover point, in a sense, where we're just letting go of one and opening up to the other. But what's really happened is, and this isn't related to any religion at all, but the Christ light is really birthing on the planet. And it doesn't matter whether you use the image of the man that we know as Jesus, or Mary Magdalene, or his mother Mary, you know, none of that matters. But the Christ light is a universal field of light that is very much about love without condition. And it's a building block of life. It's a building block of the universe. And we here have, in a sense, been somewhat disconnected from that. We've lived in our own little bubble on this planet for thousands and thousands of years. Well, we've had a particular experiment running. Well, that experiment is over now. It's done. And what has been allowed here, basically you can do whatever you want to anybody if you can get away with it, sort of thing. It's that sort of thing has been allowed. So companies and can lie and cheat and, you know, not respect the planet, not respect their employees. None of that matters. You know, it's been, profit has been made the most important thing. Now we're moving into a time where that isn't going to be allowed, because universal truth, which is a part of this Christ light, in a sense, is re-establishing itself here. And one of the principles of universal truth is that you can do no harm. So whatever your activities are, they have to be aligned with what is good for all. And that's what we're moving back into. Whereas it has been a free-for-all on this planet. And that's been a crazy, amazing experience. And an amazing experiment. Not that there wasn't karma, there were always repercussions and consequences, but in 3D reality, if you could get away with it, then try, you know, that sort of thing. Now we're shifting into a different phase, and it is very much about the care of everybody. That profit isn't going to be the primary concern. Your social consequence is going to be a really important factor, and your environmental impact is going to be a really important factor, and how you treat your employees is going to be a really important factor. All of those things will come before profits, and profits will be allowed, but not at the cost of life itself, you know. So it's going to take us a while to get there, I think. So how this is formatting itself for individuals is that there's a underneath or behind the human heart that we all have, the human heart field, which often is very wounded and very defended. Just underneath that, there's this extraordinary heart space opening up that to me is looking like a vast crystalline heart. And this is just becoming very, very strong. And it's easy to find, it's easy to tap into. And I think we'll perhaps do that as our bit of energy work on this, just a simple guided meditation into that. But this is a radiant field of light. It's part of the new energetics that are birthing and establishing themselves here. And this, as more and more people open to that and ground themselves in that, it creates this planetary-wide field of light that is a combination of this beautiful love without condition and universal truth. And the two, in a sense, are the same thing. So that as that strengthens, whatever isn't that just can't hold any longer. It can't gain power. It will be illuminated and seen and recognized as simply complete nonsense, and we're no longer going to be giving ourselves to that. At least I think that's how it's going to go. that's how I'm feeling it's going to go. But there might be this splitting of dimensions, because I think a lot of people are choosing a different version of reality. And that was shown to me, maybe 28 years ago or something like that, when I was asking, how is this going to work itself out? And I saw literally the planet splitting into two different spheres. So I think we're in that time now, that's happening. And I don't know physically how that manifests, but it does seem to me very clear that I live in a different dimension and have a very different set of experiences than a lot of people are having. And that doesn't in any way make me better or anything like that. It's just that I have made very different choices with my life and directed my focus elsewhere. And it would have been easy for me to go down that route. Well, actually, if I'd have made those choices, I wouldn't have survived. But yeah, and it was explained to me a couple of years ago, it's important now not to be trying to persuade people, not to encourage them, because the life I'm living has depended on and has come out of many, many choices, thousands and thousands of choices I have made to move me to where I'm at. And it would be too difficult for a lot of people now to make those choices. They're happy with the life they've got, even if it's really uncomfortable and even if it's a bit shocking. They're happy with those choices because they recognize them, they know them, and they're comfortable with that. Suddenly catapult into a different dimension would be really, really uncomfortable and shocking and disturbing for a lot of people, because it does tend to happen gradually, so it's interesting,
It is.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I'm excited to give everybody, all of us here, a chance to make that choice into that crystalline heart.
Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, anchoring.
Okay, cool. So I do that. This is very, very simple. And obviously, if you don't want to do this, then don't. But just usually, I think it's useful to hold your spine reasonably upright, not sort of ramrod straight, but reasonably upright, because energy flows more smoothly with that. And it's usually easiest just to close your eyes and follow your breath. Allow the breath to draw you into your body. So imagine that you're uniting your focus of attention with the breath. And feel that flowing through the throat and opening into the whole of the space in the chest, the lungs. And recognize that you can carry the breath through the physical cellular structure of the body. It's not limited in any way, because the breath is prana, it's life force, it's energy, as well as being oxygen and nitrogen and carbon dioxide. It's filled with light, and we breathe in light. So touch into the spine and allow your awareness with the breath to spiral down the spine, opening spaces between the vertebrae, relaxing the body as you go, dropping right the way down the spine through the diaphragm and the belly into the pelvis, taking some time to just settle into the pelvis. Allow the pelvis to receive you like this beautiful bowl of creativity that it is, opening through the hip joints, relaxing the pelvic floor, surrendering to gravity, allowing yourself to be pulled deeper, closer to the earth, recognizing in this moment you are safe. And bring your awareness to the center of the chest, the heart space. You can touch the muscle of the heart, tilted a little bit over toward the left. Give some thanks to that strong, beating muscle. And then intend to open the heart space. This is a portal, an infinite, eternal space that exists within each of us. It's very available now. So allow yourself to be immersed in that as you focus your breath and open spaces inside, giving permission for your human heart and any wounding, any defenses you have constructed over lifetimes perhaps, to be enfolded in this deeper, bigger heart space. And allow that spaciousness to ripple out. No containment, flowing through every cell in your body, through every nerve and fiber, through the space between every atom and molecule, flooded with this heart light that is not personal any longer. It's impersonal, universal. And so here we invite then the crystalline heart frequencies to upwell from deep, deep in your being, expanding out around you, through you, holding you, holding every fragment, every atom and molecule of your physical body, every strand of light of your light body, washing away patterns of constriction, congestion, fear, tension, just letting them collapse into this field of light that emerges from deep inside you. You can lean into this, rest in this space, recognizing that many of us have sought love outside, and yet it's always been totally, perfectly available from the inside out. And now that availability is becoming so much more apparent, so much more easy to touch into, to drink in. So inviting the crystalline heart, the Christ frequencies, the Christed light, if you like, to open in you for no other reason than that you are asking, Not because of how good you are, how spiritual you are, but just because you are asking. Washing away all patterns of tension. And if there are any particular issues, worries, pains, problems, diseases, offer them to this space, to this light. Let them float in these crystalline fields. And allow these fields of energy to lift you into higher resonances, dissolving out of your body, out of your form, patterning, conditioning that is now ready to fall away, whether it's personal, ancestral, past life, doesn't matter, just washing it away so that these frequencies can take up more space and establish themselves more fully and deeply in you and as you. Rest in this space, timeless and eternal, always present for us if we are present to it. Okay. There.
Just bringing ourselves back to this space together. I kind of flowed into the melody of your voice, so I didn't quite know if it was over or not.
I should have mentioned that. Oh, that's it. Now we're done now. Yeah. Well, there's lots of those available. I've got a free section on my website. There's a YouTube channel, so there's lots of those available. Longer pieces of collective energy work and stuff, but all leading to that sort of place, So, yeah, if that works for you, then please make use of those.
I didn't know if it was just me, or it seems like, at least in this practice, it was very about the body absorbing those frequencies and making room to absorb them. Is that a big focus that you have? Or?
I think we're meant to be embodying light now. We've been embodying everything else, and now a lot of the something that was shown to me, and I love this analogy because it really resonated for me. Years ago, I saw this series of images, and I think this is sort of how it is. It's as if the human energy field is a multidimensional spacecraft, an individual little spacecraft that is capable of extraordinary things. And we have forgotten that. We've assumed it's like a tiny little motor car that can go maybe 60, 70 miles an hour and needs filling up with gasoline every now and again and whatever. And it's as if, all of the conditioning, all of the fear, all of the past life wounding, whatever, sits over the control mechanisms and the fine structuring and architecture of this beautiful, beautiful craft. And we've convinced ourselves that it's a really sort of shabby little motor car. But as we clear the conditioning, we recognize that, oh my God, this is an amazing craft. And it's as if we've just been handed the control manual of this extraordinary ship that is capable of just about anything. And we're sitting, the control panel is actually the heart, and we're sitting right there looking at the dashboard thinking, oh my God, what can we do with this thing, you know? And that's where we're at. Now, that's what we are, these amazing multidimensional fields of light that have been convinced we're these tiny, tiny, insignificant, worthless pieces of shit, but actually we're universal fields of light that have been pretending for thousands of years to be something much, much smaller. And now we're remembering that truth. And so drinking in the light into ourselves helps deeper and deeper levels of us to remember that, to to be
That was great because it was like rev the engine, you know.
yeah, really. He's recognizing he can go a bit faster than 50 miles an hour, that one. So yeah, we're just coming online again as our multidimensional selves. It's very cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thanks everybody for being here and coming online with your multidimensional selves. Keep at it and choose a focus and keep it in your sights.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Take care.
Take care, everybody.